Welcome viewers, you're watching Mama's TV, the studio, our Oslo studio, live from our Oslo studio in Norway. We have a new program here for you viewers called A Week in Gambian Politics, the Looming Crisis in the Gambia. In the studio this evening, or this afternoon rather, depending on which time zone you are, we have Ndeye Jobate. Ndeye is a gender and political activist, an early member of the revolutionary group called Moja, set up in the First Republic of the Gambia during the PPP regime. Ndeye is also a recent activist, has been working tirelessly against the Jammeh dictatorship, and in the recent, since September, has been managing the campaign for Gambia's first female presidential candidate, Dr. Toure, in the diaspora aspect of that. As we know, Ami has been the campaign manager in the Gambia. And what I'm trying to say, to restore democracy in the Gambia. We also have in the studio, but coming on Skype with us, is Madi Jobate. Madi is also a political activist, also the CEO of an organization called Tango in the Gambia. And Madi has also been a very, very prominent member of the Dr. Aissatou Toure campaign, trying to work tirelessly also in the coalition to make sure that we have a peaceful transition in the Gambia. We also have on Skype, coming from London directly, a young lady, a new activist also, a political activist in her own right, Nyima Toure, who has also been active in the Dr. Aissatou presidential campaign, and now working also to see that the coalition succeeds and that there is democracy restored in the Gambia. I want to welcome Ndeye, Madi and Nyima to the Mamos TV studio for A Week in Gambia Politics. I'm your presenter, Nene. Ndeye, welcome.
Thank you, Nene, for having me.
Thank you. Nyima, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Madi, welcome to the Mamos TV studio. I hope Madi is hearing me. Well, Ndeye, we have seen everything. I think everything that's been happening, we just have to take a deep breath because it's been highs and ups. It was a tense moment. Welcome, Madi.
Okay.
We're already on air. We're live on Mama's TV.
Okay.
Yes, and we now start just the discussions. Madi, if you can put your camera down a little bit because we're only seeing your. If you can just adjust your camera. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
That is it. Now we can see you perfectly. That is great. Ndeye, we have had a lot of highs and ups. We have seen a successful election in the Gambia. We've seen the countings and everything, and we've seen that we thought, at least we believed, that democracy was restored in the Gambia. How do you see this whole process?
Well, I believe democracy has been restored. Whether Jammeh accept or not, democracy has been restored in the sense that people voted Jammeh out on the ballot box. If we go a little bit back, it has been for years, Jammeh himself has been saying that nobody can remove him. If nobody votes for him, even the Jinnah will vote for him. And Gambians went to the point that they believe that you cannot remove Jammeh in a ballot box. And of course, people kept saying you cannot remove a dictator in a ballot box because this is, historically, this has been impossible. So, I mean, for me, whether we're still negotiating with Jammeh or whether he's still holding it to power, democracy has been restored because people went into the ballot box and said no. Even if you take the bullets, our marbles has spoken for us. And that, for me, is just enough. That we went down to remove Jammeh on the ballot box. As simple as that. And the Gambian people have decided on that. Whether he stays or not, that's a different ballgame.
Thank you, Ndai. Madi, welcome to Mamos TV.
Thank you.
Madi, we have seen a historical event in the Gambia where the Gambian people voted out through the ballot box the dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh that existed for over 22 years. Can you just give the audience a brief description of what it was like? Because I know you lived under that dictatorship in the Gambia. What it was like briefly before you left, and how historical this has been for the Gambian people.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the Jammeh regime is a paradox, an enigma. If you consider the fact that the Gambia is the host of the African Charter, African Center for, African Commission for Human and People's Rights, which is the monitoring body for the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. That charter, its nickname is Banjul Charter, established or done in Banjul in 1981, in recognition of the fact that the Gambia was an enviable democratic country, from independence until, at that moment, at the period when a lot of despots, one-party rule systems and, military dictatorships and civil wars were ravaging the whole of Africa. But Gambia was that, island where fundamentally, to a large extent, rights and freedoms were being respected, with all the shortcomings that, also existed at the time. So by 1994, Gambia was at a position where we just needed to take one right step to really transform that country into something, completely different from now. So Yahya Jammeh came, and in these 22 months that he's been in power, he's only served to reverse the Gambia to a position that currently Gambia is at the bottom in terms of human rights and democracy, respect for rule of law. And he's been able to do this, by directly, through violence, through deception, to personalize the state itself. When you hear a leader say the state is mine, that is the Gambia under Yahya Jammeh. He completely flouts the rule of law. He disregards the separation of powers principle. These are fundamental pillars, checks and balances of our constitution. So that directly he determines what happens in the assembly, National Assembly. He determines what happens in the courts. And he interferes with every and each state institution, particularly statutory institutions like the IEC. Alright. So these 22 years of his rule has been at the bigger level destruction of the structure of the state and subverting the constitution. And at the political level, he has, personalized our sovereignty. He has completely damaged our sovereignty to the point that the average Gambian does not have his or her rights recognized, respected, and protected by the state. The ability of Gambians to hold their leaders to account, he completely damaged that space and that ability. So in practice, he has unleashed violence using state institutions, and where state institutions are not able to do it, he has used the law to create laws, new laws, to also change existing laws for the purpose of limiting the ability of Gambians to be able to hold their leaders to account and to exercise their sovereignty, which is an 10th clause in our constitution under chapter 4. So this is the way Adbari has run this, so that it is not just about our rights and our lives that he has destroyed through personalizing the state and interfering with the state and subverting our constitution and sovereignty, but he went further to also personalize public wealth, to personalize public wealth and to use the citizenry and its institutions to generate wealth for him. So he has taken land from the communities, he has confiscated people's properties, he has set up businesses that do not pay tax, and he has taken loans and grants that have been given to the Gambia to make it his personal property. And those personal businesses that he set up, he went further to make soldiers, the police, young people, women, parastatals to work on those enterprises for his own benefit. So the damage that Yaya has caused to the Gambia is so immense, especially if you consider the fact that, for me, the most dangerous destruction he has done is to really threaten our social fabric, the peace and harmony that exists between our ethnic groups, between our religions, between families, between colleagues. He has polluted that relationship, and therefore forced various institutions, personalities of the society, such as the religious community, the chiefs, the alcalde, the elders, to undermine their authority and their value to the point that the average Gambian today lacks respect, say, for the Imam Rati or the Supreme Islamic Council. And where a society lacks those kind of independent, respectable voices, then it means that society is exposed to violence that is just immense. So, these are the damages and the way Yaya's 22 years has unfolded, in the Gambia over the period. It's immense.
Thank you, Madi. Thank you. We'll come back to you very, very soon. We'll now go directly to London, and we have Nyima Toure. We have Nyima with us. Nyima, I'm not sure whether Nyima is hearing me. Nyima, can you hear me? Nyima?
Hello?
Hello, yes, Nyima. Welcome once again to Mamos TV.
Thank you.
On a week of Gambia, a week in Gambian politics, the looming crisis in the Gambia. Nyima, as Madi has just explained, I don't know whether you're able to hear, Yaya basically in the past 22 years owned the Gambia. He owned the Gambia, and that is how the extent of his dictatorship went. From the media to the courthouses, is what he said that became law. That is what Gambia has been. As a young political activist and as a young woman, how much does this newfound democracy, what does it mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, because as you said, 22 years wasn't 22 days, it's a long time. And the way that the IGM has operated in the past 22 years is basically he's instilled fear into every fragment of society in the Gambia. And the funny thing is, not just within the Gambia, but also outside. And that's manifested in sort of, you sort of have friends saying, I can't like your punch because, and these are people that are outside the Gambia. So this is the fear that Yaya Jammeh had instilled into Gambians, both within the Gambia and the ones abroad. Now, if Gambians abroad are scared to even click a like button because they think perhaps that a post of yours is politically incorrect, not necessarily incorrect, but politically sort of motivated, they're holding back from touching that like button or commenting, that demonstrates the extent to which Yaya Jammeh has gone. Now, his removal, or shall I say, his imminent removal, because he's still sat there and insisting on staying in power. But his imminent removal is hopefully going to bring in and usher in a new Gambia where we see hopefully that fear factor being taken out of people. People can go about their normal business without fear of sort of, looking back their shoulders or watching, what they use, whose name they call. or just so I'm sort of looking forward to a new Gambia where people can just say what they feel like saying without any fear of being reprimanded, and also just having a free democratic Gambia, which hopefully should see us also do better economically, and I'm sort of because we're a small country, it shouldn't take us what is it, the 22 years to get us to where we're at now. So hopefully we're going to see a true Gambia with this democracy, see Gambia do better economically as well. So it's exciting times. Exciting times,
but it turned overnight because in that 1 week we saw that he obviously conceded defeat and accepted and that he had lost the elections. And then overnight our dreams were shattered. The majority of dreams of all Gambians were shattered. How did you take that?
To be honest with you, on the second when the results came, I wasn't surprised that the coalition won. I was expecting them to win. Now, however, Yahya Jammeh's conceding, that came as a little bit of a surprise to me because I wasn't expecting him to. So to be honest, in my opinion, I think the win came as a surprise to Yahya Jammeh. I don't think Yahya Jammeh was expecting the coalition to win. I don't believe that he knew that he was going to be losing that election. And if he knew that he was going to lose, he was not going to do on-the-spot counting. Believe me, he will not. So, in my opinion, I think this came as a big surprise to Yahya Jammeh. So this is probably a big blow. And you could see that in the way he was sort of doing his constitutional speech that he did afterwards. He wasn't being the Yahya Jammeh that we know. So I reckon at that time he was probably consumed with sort of surprise and probably shock more than anything. So days later, when he came back, a week later, when he said he wants to reject it, that's when we then saw the Yahya Jammeh that everybody is used to. So I don't think to me it hasn't come as a surprise. And I wasn't really celebrating, I wasn't jubilating. My jubilation will come when Yahya Jammeh leaves, hopefully on the 18th of January. That's when I'll be jubilating and cracking the, that's when I'll really be celebrating. So I think until then, we just have to, watch this space really, because he doesn't have any mandate. From the 18th of January, he doesn't have a mandate. His mandate is still on now, and I know he's saying that, there's lots of rumors going out there about what's been said, what he said, what's happening, and it's very, it's sort of a very uncertain and a very sort of worrying times really, because it's just lots of information getting out there, people getting the wrong end of the stick or getting conflicting information from various sources. So I think it's sort of very, very sort of unnerving, to say the least. But hopefully 18th of January, we should be able to see things moving on in the right direction. Hopefully he steps down.
Thank you, Nyima. Nyima, don't forget to share the post on your profile so that your friends and people can catch on that you are live on Mamas. Okay. And you can also be following it. We'll be back to you later on, a little bit later on with this. But share the link and tweet it so that your friends, family and well-wishers, friends of the Gambia can follow the discussions on live TV right now. Ndeye, Nyima, you heard what Nyima said, that this was a shock. I think for the majority of us, I think we were hoping, but we're all even shocked because we are feeling that these elections were rigged. But looking closely Ndeye at the results, have the Gambian people really been voting in Jammeh year in, year out? Because it's still close. All those numbers, were they rigged? Was it rigged in any way in the past? Because it was close. He won, but there was a lot of people. If you take the results, you see the amount of people that voted, and it was on-the-spot counting, the amount of people that actually voted for Jammeh.
Yeah, when you look at the result, it's very close.
Yeah.
But the elections have been rigged.
In the past.
Because in the past. And even this time around, because, if we really, probably after everything, we go back to do the counting again, we will realize that there are people who are voting who are even not Gambians. Because these issues have been coming, that people who are voting who are not even Gambians, who have Gambians voters card, and people who are dead, never exist, were voting. We don't have proof of those things. People who are never in the country, they are not around, they were voting. So those things we will know when the coalition settles and we do reform of the IEC, then we will see this thing happening. It's close, yes, but it was weak. What saved us, as Nyima rightly said, on the spot counting. Because that, if these results were taken to where they used to do, to the headquarters of the IEC, then we would have been, that was a done deal for Jammeh. And yes, Nima said something very important, that this was a shock to Jammeh. I agree 100%. Jammeh has never believed that Gambians can vote him out on the ballot box. Never, because this is the typical tendency of a dictator. Because you go, you terrify the people, you control the people, you control the media, you control everything, and then you feel you have power. But dictators always create their own downfall. One, the diaspora, because technology is so advanced now that dictators can survive even that long. And the diaspora did so well in terms of using the technology and the media to pursue Jammeh. Where he shut down all communication, they open it. Then you have on-the-spot counting. There and then you are counting. And if you remember very well, we were getting results directly from the polls.
Absolutely.
Directly from the polls. That's another technology. That's technology and diaspora as well. Because when you look at historically, most of these dictators are taken out by people outside, because they organize and strengthen themselves and then go after them. So Yahya is really shocked, and I think, I'm not sure if even I'm right, but I believe that Jammeh conceded defeat out of shock. Out of shock, because even for me, when Jammeh conceded defeat, I was still very uncomfortable. Yeah. Because it was too good to be true. I was very uncomfortable, I was very nervous, because I feel, unless, as Nima is saying, Jammeh hand over power, we're still on the red light. Yeah. Because this man can, because he was so shocked that I think, I call it, Jammeh was in coma. He went into coma and came and declared defeat, get out of coma and came back. And said, what is happening? What did I say? What did I say? I've really killed myself. I've really ruined my whole career. I've already ruined my whole career. And this is exactly the point. It's just a trauma. He went through a trauma. And he came out of it and, say no, which everybody expected. Because I just want to be very, very clear that everybody expected that Jammeh wouldn't concede defeat. So actually, him coming out of coma after 8 days, declaring himself, declaring the result null and void, is what we expected. So, I mean,
this is not a week after.
Yes.
Why such a long time?
Yeah, but the guy was on a shock. The guy went into trauma. He went into coma. Somebody who is even saying that, who went to believe that even if Gambians don't vote for him, the genius will vote for him. He said those words. So now this is a guy who, not only the genius refused to vote him, but the Gambians refused to vote him. So people were like, look, this time we're going to get rid of this man. Peacefully. Because you see, Gambians are very peaceful. They're very peaceful people. They, with all these things Jammeh did, they decided to go on the ballot box to say, look, we don't want you. So Jammeh is shocked. And after 8 days waking up, he woke up. And then realized everything is taking underneath his feet. So he has to do something. And he came out to declare it. And it's ridiculous, actually. It's very ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Mahdi.
Yeah.
What is the way forward? Do you think, what do you expect now in the coming days?
What I expect actually would depend on what we do as Gambians inside the Gambia and outside the Gambia. As Ney was saying, I just want us to bear this in mind. The nature of dictatorship is such that it lives and dies with power. Dictatorship is a political tool intended to achieve economic objectives. And so dictatorship utilizes as its tools violence and deception in order to obtain the obedience of the people. So that even you and I, by the fact that we are not in the Gambia, have considered this space to Yahya Jammeh, so we are obeying him. If I in the Gambia, as long as you are not resisting against a dictator, you are obeying the dictator, and that keeps dictatorship in place. So this is why he is refusing to leave, because that violence and deception are atrocities, are crimes for which a dictator is always afraid to face accountability.
But Mahdi,
surprised by what.
But Mahdi, there has been
So now what
resistance.
is way forward is
Madi,
how
can you hear me?
organize to make sure he steps down. Now, right now, he is going to use all means, looking at all some spots in order to delay and to derail the power of the people to take place. So I just posted some information on Facebook, like he will try to appoint some people over in some scientific institutions, people who are naive and immoral or corrupt. They will try to, interfere with the institutions like the police or traditional authorities in order to, derail us. He will speak as if he's a victim, for people who are naive to buy into a peace and forgiveness idea. So what we need to do in terms of the way forward, therefore, is first of all Gambians have to be conscious, aware of the ways and means of a dictator who is morally, legally, and politically weak, to make sure he remains in that weakness, because we are in the position of power. That the new leadership, that is Adama Barrow and his team, they need to engage the population, to see how do you, for example, Adama goes to Bundum or Ibo Town or Brikama or Farato or Parapeli to get thank you talks, to tell people thank you, give them a message of unity, a message of reconciliation, a message that this is your freedom, your victory, you have to protect it. It needs to be seen to meet various sectors of our society, civil society, trade unions, private sector, diplomatic community, religious leaders, because all of those are activities that isolate more, that disempower more the dictator, and it builds solidarity so that even the agenda supporters would become wary, so they will start to join the movement, because they will see that after all, the coalition, the new leadership wants reconciliation. At the same time, one needs to engage with the international community to make sure, I would have suggested, I hope they did, to send a representative to Abuja for this meeting today in ECOWAS. He needs to send emissaries to Senegal to meet with the highest authorities in Senegal to discuss, and of course to AU and other places. So the way forward, really, I think this is it. And for us to start our ground, that we have given you 22 years, even despite the dictatorship, the atrocities. We have gone through 4 elections, which you have won, in very difficult conditions, because it was because of your manner of your malpractices that 2011 ECOWAS refused to observe the election. 2012, the opposition boycotted parliamentary elections. There's not a complaint that has not been laid against the IEC and the government for the malpractices of the agenda. So for us to come the 5th time and only to tell us that IEC is fraudulent, when on 30th November 2016, you told Al Jazeera that Gambia election is the best in the world because it's risk-free, it's fraud-free.
Yes.
Now you are telling us that IEC is dubious.
Yes.
So that clearly should tell Gambians that we are dealing with a man who believes in nothing other than his selfish interests.
That's
so
true.
So the way forward
Madi,
is how do we do this and move on.
Madi, you were talking, I just want to take you a little bit back because you mentioned something about there should be resistance if time is wasted. But we saw all of the parties come out, we saw the coalition leaders condemn it, we saw the international community condemn it, we saw all the major institutions in the Gambia, all the way from the lawyers, you know what I'm trying to say, to the legal institutions, to those of the musicians and the teachers. We saw everybody come and condemn this. There was in total international condemnation as well. What more could you have asked for, really? Everybody has condemned it.
Yeah, but it's not enough to condemn it. We have to consolidate that condemnation. Right now, the coalition has immense resources. That condemnation is resource. All right? Young people, the civil society, like you said, everyone condemned it. Now it is how do you build up on that condemnation? Because you cannot just condemn and sit down. Now, I think, for example, right now, Japan has lost the legal and the political authority, legitimacy to continue to rule the Gambia because he has violated the constitution, okay, by making that kind of statement to annul the election and voting for the constitution of the IEC. So by now, he has no legal authority, legitimacy to be the government, head the government in the Gambia. So for me, if I were to advise Barrow, number one, I would experience that actually is building up in the Gambia. So tell people to stay at home. Tell people to carry a Gambia flag. I mean, as a sign of telling them to step down. You know,
okay.
tell people to, you know, sing the national anthem.
Okay,
so,
but Madi, just okay, Madi, fine. I just want to ask Ndeye, is it right for the Gambian people to ask Yahya Jammeh to step down before the 18th? I think it's his constitutional right to be there until the 18th.
Yes, they said 60 days, but this guy has violated already the constitution. As Madi is rightly saying, you can't go and null and void and ask for a new election just like that. So the guy is already a threat to the new democracy that Gambian people have already started. So I would agree with Madi that they should demand his immediate removal, because the guy is a danger to the country. He's a danger to the Gambian people. He's a danger to the coalition. He is a danger to this new democracy we are building in. They can demand for that. They can ask for that as well, that he should step down. But yes, of course, if you flip it on the other side, I would say, yeah, let's follow him through, because there's an interesting thing Khalifa said in his speech, and I vehemently disagreed at that moment. But when I look at it now, I said it was a good one actually. He said, you know what, let people go back, buy their businesses, do whatever they do, and then let's wait until January, when Jammeh is no longer the president. And if you look at the way Gambian people are going by their things, they're just going as business as usual. Going doing their normal shopping, going doing their normal laundry, and doing their things. And Jammeh realized that people don't care what he said, because he probably was expecting when he go and annul these results, when he go and said we are going for election, people would take the streets. Then he declared state of emergency or go on shooting rampage. That didn't happen. So the Gambian people did a passive denouncement of Jammeh by going as business as usual and leaving the guy to rant. And you realize that nearly every other day he comes with something else. He came to denounce the election, then he came back to accuse tribalism, then he came back to accuse of insulting his mother, then he came back to call the imam, just watch him. He's so desperate.
Yes.
He's going after everything to get the attention.
Yeah,
and he's not getting it.
But Madi, you're saying that we shouldn't go as business as usual. You're saying that every day that this dictator is in, he entrenches himself in power more or less. So you don't think that he should be business as usual. You think that he should be forcefully removed.
Yes, you know, Nene, state power, and I hope people understand what is state power. State power is the state who owns the tools of violence. They own the guns, the military, the ministries, the various agencies. Right now, any one of us who wants, even if you buy a compound, the state knows. If you buy a car, the state knows. If a woman gets pregnant, the state knows. The state knows everything. The state is in charge of everything. So whoever is in charge of the state power is a very powerful individual, because the tools of coercion, of power, of violence, of influence that you have. Now, to have this power in the hands of one man for 22 years, who has, tortured, raped, killed, forced disappearance of Gambians, has made Gambia's best brains and, the cream of our society to live. Now, if that man goes to election and says one word, like what he just said, and you take that to be nothing, even in a democracy like Sweden, if the Prime Minister says a word, it's very important. If the President says a word, it's very important. So for a brutal dictator to say something like this, and anyone assumes that he is just talking, then it means you are very ignorant of the situation in the Gambia over the 24 years. It means you are ignorant politically to understand what is state power. So for me, business should not be as usual. For me, Yahya has lost legitimacy to rule, because this legal, the Bar Association said so, that it is treason. Somebody who's committing treason cannot be a head of state. Treason is crime against the state.
Yes, absolutely.
So whoever commits a crime against the state, that's a coup d'etat. So how can you allow such a person to continue to rule? So by legal analysis, Yahya has lost the legitimacy on the 9th of December to rule. So if he is there anymore now, it is because we allow him to be there until January 19th or January 18th. Because that's the law. But January 9th, December 9th, he came and violated the law. So what legal or political, legitimacy does he have? Our political system is based on democracy.
Yes.
That democracy is based on separation of powers. 3 arms of the state. It's based on a rule of law. There are rules that apply. Now this man has flouted the rule of law, has flouted the separation of powers principle. So he has endangered, threatened our democratic dispensation. So on what basis now should he be president again?
So Mahdi, do you think that Jammeh would leave that office come 18th of January?
No, he will not leave willingly because, again, in the history of the world,
yes,
no dictator ever left power willingly and peacefully. It has never happened. The dictator has to be killed, has to be captured, or is chased out. From Hitler to Blaise Compaoré, you check every dictator in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, you will never see that. So anyone who assumes that Jammeh is going to leave power willingly on January 18th, you are in a fool's paradise.
Thank you, Mahdi. Thank you.
He lives power.
Thank you, Mahdi. Thank you, Mahdi. So we'll come back to you. Please tweet and let your friends know and share the Mama's page link so that your friends know that you're live and watch you and hear your ideas. Can we get to Nyima? Can we get Nyima on the line? Nyima, I don't know whether you've been following the debate, Nyima. Can you hear me? Ndey, I don't know whether Nyima can get me, but do you think Jammeh would leave come 18th? Are you optimistic? Because hearing Mahdi, it is scary.
I believe he would leave then, because Jammeh doesn't have a choice. He's against the wall. Everybody is against him. Jammeh has no friend. Yes, I agree with Mahdi. Historically, dictators, you never remove dictators just like that. They are either killed, arrested, captured. But historically, again, we voted out a dictator.
Yes.
So things are happening in Gambia. We are rewriting the history and the stories of dictators. Even if you look at the whole epistemology of dictatorship, we have changed that. So I still believe that Jammeh would leave. If he doesn't leave, the coalition has the right to continue and run their business and rule the country. So what's going to happen to him is another story. But I believe he would leave, and I also believe that this can happen. Another historical move, because he doesn't have the choice. Like recently, he spoke to the imam. We don't know what the imam has said to him, but of course he brought his own version to the media,
yes,
to JRTS. So, and I'm sure, I may not be citing the imam, but I believe the imams also are so much under pressure when it comes to Gambian people, when it comes to people's voices, when it comes to opinion, that they will tell Jammeh to step down for peace.
But the imams that came out and made that statement, that was the Islamic Union. He still has very much the support of the Islamic Council, because we've not heard any of them come up with any statements so far.
No, they haven't come up with any statement. But I'm assuming that these imams also, even though they are not political, they are reading the situation in the country. That Gambian people don't want Jammeh. This is not about imam or about opposition or about the coalition or about the diaspora. It's the Gambian people who are saying that we don't want you, we have enough of you, and you have to leave. And they also voted him out on the ballot box. So Jammeh has a choice to leave or to be pulled out, honestly. Because this is where I agree with Mahdi that if he doesn't leave, they have to remove him. Because there is no other way out. Leaving Jammeh there means he's coming to kill us. He's going to kill Gambians one by one when you leave him there. So the only choice we have, either we remove him by force if he refuses, or we say that we're going to leave him there to continue killing people. And that's not going to happen. So the only option is removing Jammeh, and he has to go. He would go. Jammeh is a coward. Jammeh is a coward. If you listen to Jammeh's conceding defeat, you look at this man. He was a broken man already. You listen to Jammeh again, preaching peace. You know, it's a broken man. He's a coward. Dictators are cowards. weapon and the military to entrench themselves. When you take them away from them, they are nobody. And we see it in Jammeh. From day one when he considered defeat. And now, continuous stories coming, accusing people of things he created. Tribalism is Jammeh.
Thank you, Day. Madi, if you can try to get Madi since we can't get Nyimma. Madi, can you hear me? Madi. Madi. Madi, how significant, Day has just explained how he's continued to entrench himself in power. How significant is a promotion of those military officers in the Gambia? Is this a looming crisis for the Gambia at the moment?
Yes, we should not underrate any word, any action, any decision of a dictator. You do that, you do it at the cost of your own life. So, as I said, Yaya since December 9th would be exploiting various strategies to survive. And that would be promoting these officers. And I'm sure he would be right now, if one should check closely, he is giving them a lot of goodies, a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
Because he needs them to survive. He would be speaking as if he's a peace person, speaking about forgiveness, trying to make himself look like a victim. That his mother was insulted, his mother was said to have died. You know, so you look at his speech with the imams, the entire speech, Yahya did not say, Billah wa la tamat. Yahya did not point his finger to say, if anyone does this, blah, blah, blah. So his entire way of talking until December 9th completely changed. His entire attitude changed. You know, so this is the point. He is doing this to promote the soldiers. He will do many, many things of that nature. To even go to the police to try to falsify reports, because when he talks about people are causing violence and those who said they should be seen to promote peace, try to create the impression that Adama Barrow and the coalition are the ones going to attack people. And there are no incidents of attacks in the Gambia. You know, that are anything significant. So he is trying to play with our minds. He is trying to do actions that are promoting these people. He will try to, you know, twist the police and other structures like the regional administrations in order to, you know, survive. So governments need to be aware of the tactics and the strategies of a dictator, especially in a situation where people have voted against him. And yes, he voted against the dictator. But that doesn't mean he will step down. We have to make the conditions for him to step down. If we did not create those conditions, he will create conditions for him to stay.
Yes.
So, you know, that conditions, how do we create those conditions? And those conditions are the civil disobedience. You know, the pressure from the international community, the pressure from inside, the kind of leadership Barrow and his team also project. You know, so all these are conditions we have to create so that at the end of the day, he will seek asylum probably at him and agree to the regional leaders that he leads, and you know, we start to negotiate his asylum and amnesty issues. And if that is what he wants, we have to let him know so that we may get the peace and get the change. And what got to follows afterwards. Yeah. And I think this is the way.
Thank you, Madi. We can try Nima again. I'm just going to message Nima trying to get us again. Thank you for that contribution, Madi. Very, very interesting. Civil disobedience. Is that the way we should go? Or is it just enough with these the condemnations that are coming from Gambians? Because we've also seen a new campaign that's been launched with members of citizens coming up with demanding with placards, different members. I saw that's something that I saw that activism that has started. And there are placards going around saying Gambia has decided as well. Is that enough civil disobedience, or should people take to the streets as we get Nyimma?
I think the civil disobedience has already started.
Yes.
And civil disobedience also build up. It has a building up processes and building up period. And we see it building up. As you said, from Gambia has decided. From Activista coming with the placard saying that Jammeh should stop with different people showing it up. It has already started with also different institutions condemning, denouncing their relationship with Jammeh and asking him to step down. So these are all part of a process of civil disobedience where it starts and building up to a point where people get into the street. Or people do a call out that nobody is going out to work. People wouldn't even, nobody's going to work for Jammeh because he doesn't, he's not legitimate. These are the...
Thank you. Nyima, can you hear us? Yes, Nyima, thank you. Welcome back again to the show. Nyima, we had Mahdi on and we had Ndeye, basically saying that Jammeh should not be allowed to wait until the 18th, which many people say are his constitutional right to be there until the 18th, and by the 19th we have a new government. But they feel that his rights, as his constitutional rights, he has no constitutional rights because he violated those same rights when he denounced the results. How do you feel about that? Should Jammeh be told to go now?
Absolutely. He should step down right now and leave. I'm in total agreement with both Ndeye and Mahdi. And every single day that Yahya stays in office, he poses a threat to Gambians, he poses a threat to regional stability, he poses a threat to Senegal. He should leave right now. I think that's the right thing, that's the honorable thing to do. He violated the rights right the moment when he came back on saying that he was sort of, challenging the results again and the way the elections were conducted. So I think he should go. Total agreement, he should go. Step down right now.
But Nyima, we also see that there's the level of civil disobedience. We've seen all the institutions come out condemning. But we've also seen that now it is coming up with people saying that the lawyers saying that they will not, and not the teachers, the teachers' unions coming out saying that they will not be doing exams. Students also saying that they will not take their exams. And we've seen all this activism. But Mahdi is asking for another level of civil disobedience. He's actually calling maybe that people should take onto the streets because that's the language that Jammeh understands. What do you think about that? What are your views on that?
My views on going on the streets, I think, should be the last resort because Jammeh is a desperate man and he will do anything to anybody that stands in his path. Again, I think we should wait and see what the outcome of today's regional meeting is. From the regional leaders that came a couple of days ago, let's wait and see. They're having their meeting today. I'll advise we wait and see what happens at that meeting, what they advise, and from there on, take it from there. But I would say I think it should be on the tables, but right now, I don't think that's the solution to the problem right at this very minute. But perhaps maybe before the 18th of January, it could be a possibility.
Yes.
A good possibility, perhaps.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a very, very sensitive question, Nyima. Do you think the reaction of the coalition has been satisfactory in your view when Jammeh, in a way, refused the results?
I think they could have done better. They could have responded a lot quicker, perhaps. And again, I do appreciate the work that they have to do there on the ground. It's a very, very hard task that they have in their hands right now. However, I think they could be a little bit more sort of on the ball, a little bit sort of quicker in responding. But perhaps they probably were not expecting Jammeh to come back after a week of conceding, to come back and say, actually, I don't agree. So I think it probably took them a little bit by surprise as well that he came and did that. However, I think now that it's sort of thought it through, we've had the regional leaders come and have talks with both the coalition leaders and Jammeh as well. And I think this week as well they had the religious leaders also go and come to had a meeting with Yahya Jammeh, and then also went and met Adama Barrow. I believe that happened this week. So I think the ball is rolling, but perhaps we would like to see it roll a lot faster and see a lot more sort of action happening and taking place than it is at the moment. Yeah.
No, okay, I'll come back to you, Nyima. Don't disappear. Keep following the debate, and I hope you've tweeted the link. Mamos TV live on Facebook at the moment. Are you satisfied with the coalition, the actions that are coming out of the coalition? Is it a strong leadership? Is it what is expected?
For me, I always say the fact that we voted for them, we asked them to come together. I believe we should be able to have expectation and tolerance towards the work they're doing. There is strong leadership, if you want to ask me. There is strong leadership because it's a group of 7 people who are together and working hard to really get us where they want. And I think that is strong enough. We've never had it in the history of the Gambia to have 7 leaders coming together. Yes, if you want to ask me, I would have like Nima.
But maybe the fact that there's 7 strong leaders together, isn't that what's making the reaction slow?
It's difficult to say. It could make it because when you have strong leadership, 7 strong leaders, yes, there might be challenges. But then again, don't forget, Nene, this is a country that has been abused and raped of everything. It's a very difficult terrain to operate. And this is where the challenge is for the new leadership. It's a very difficult terrain to operate. You cannot even predict what is going to happen next because there is nothing. All the institutions are destabilized. All the fabric, what you need, even the information you need to allow you to analyze, to prepare yourself for what is happening, it doesn't exist. So these people are in a terrain whereby, I would just say, it's like you send a military. In a terrain, like in the desert, they have no clue. And you send them that go and find a solution, or go find a road, or build a house. This is how I see it happening with these coalition people, because they are really struggling to deal with the pressure of the Gambian people saying that Jammeh should go immediately because we are scared. We don't want this man any minute here because he can come and kill us. We don't want this man any minute here because he can do anything. Then they have to deal with the constitutional law that says the guy has to be there 60 days. Then there again, they're dealing with a legal issue again where Jammeh even had committed a treasonable offense. How do you deal with a president who has committed a treasonable offense? And then how can you deal with a president also who has 60 days constitutional right? How can you deal with people who are so scared and they want this man out as quick as possible? How can you deal with a diaspora that has no patience? They just want this man out. So this is a huge task. It's a huge and tremendous task for these people to do. Yes, they could have acted quicker. I would have loved immediate statements coming. Immediately that day when Jammeh denounced the results, they should have immediately come out with a statement. But then again, as I said, these people are dealing with a situation very difficult. And also, we have to understand that bringing 7 different people together is even a challenge. Not to talk of bringing 7 different parties, 7 different strong leaders, 7 different opinions, 7 different people, 7 different belief systems, 7 different people of working in different space and paces. It's a challenge. And this is done within a span of a month, I guess. Within a month. So the impossible have been made possible in Gambia. So a lot of things are happening that are very positive in the whole stress we are going through. In this whole process that we are struggling, the impossible have been made possible. So we are dealing with those challenges now. It's like they came together because there was a need. They were forced to. Because the opposition couldn't even have gone into election alone because the atmosphere, the environment was not accepting, was intolerant to even individuals going alone. It was not acceptable. So, and they were forced to come up within the span of the month. This is not thought through. It's not like any other coalition where it's years or months or been worked at, then they come. Here they are dealing with a dictator who also accepted defeat, and of course they go back because of course the coalition, let's be honest, our politicians have no experience in coalition. This is new. They don't have the experience. They don't have the skills in this. They're just also learning as we are learning.
Yeah.
Then this man come and said, no, I'm not gonna accept. Now, I'm sure they were sitting relaxing and saying that, okay, fine, now we go and do our government and everything. Bam, Jammeh come. Even if you look at the announcement, you would have expect Jammeh would have called the leaders and discussed with them that I disagree before going on air. Jammeh went on air, I guess, before even the coalition knew. Because we were making phone calls.
Exactly.
To say, have you what did you see?
It's on the news.
The news. Exactly.
Everybody heard it on GRTS.
On GRTS.
But Nyima, what they is saying is that Jammeh actually has no very little respect for the coalition leaders. How strong do you think this coalition really is, Nyima? Do they have the right resources? Do they have what it takes to defeat this dictatorship come 18th of January?
Do they have what it takes? I don't think they have all the resources that they need to remove the IJB. And again, talking hypothetically here, it all depends on what it comes down to on the 18th. If Jammeh refuses to go on the 18th, what are the coalition going to do? I don't think in that case, the coalition has the resources to deal with that. And I think perhaps this is where the regional assistance and international help is going to come in. So in that sense, no, they don't have the resources to deal with it there. So yeah, the answer is no then. No, they don't.
They don't. So then how strong is this? How strong then?
Again, we're getting a lot of pressure from within the Gambia with the civil disobedience that we're seeing, which is great. Again, that should be sending a very strong message to Yahya Jammeh, saying that, okay, you're saying that you don't agree with the results, but look, hey, lots of these institutions are coming out and denouncing you publicly, which they've never had the audacity to do. They're now doing that publicly and telling you that we've had enough, it's enough, we want you to go. So that should be sending a strong message, but I don't think the coalition itself has the resources to deal with removing Jammeh if he refuses to go. But I am hopeful that hopefully he will do the right thing and step down.
Yeah.
I want to come to Nyima's point that the coalition, because I believe that the coalition have what is stake to get rid of Jammeh. Why? Is for the first time. Also, again, for the first time, we are seeing leaders acting immediately, meaning the African leadership acting immediately.
In the form of ECOWAS.
ECOWAS,
okay.
the AU as well, because ECOWAS and AU, they were together.
African Union, yes.
Yeah, AU acting immediately. Usually, they wait and then it derail into civil disobedience, go into war, fight, and they come in. But for the first time, they came immediately, and that's positive. That's a positive sign, and that also is what it takes also for the coalition, because they have a backing, they have a power behind them, they have a shoulder behind them to really deal with Jammeh in that. Even though internally we are talking about the military being divided.
Yes.
But I still also expect that the military, when it comes to show, I think they will stand by the people.
Yes.
Because it's their mothers, their fathers, their sisters there.
But what is interesting is that I saw on a recent thing on the Dr. Aissatou Toure page, a page that is very interactive and doing very, very well, where many people are coming, obviously, to get information about the coalition. I saw a recent statement there where Adama, President-elect Adama Barrow, explained that in a video there that he felt that he had the support of the Gambian military, because when they succeeded or won the elections, the army head contacted him and said to him that we supported Jammeh 100%. We're going to give you 250% of our support.
Yeah.
But I have not seen any public condemnation by the army or any statement, official statement coming from the army showing that they're giving him that 250 support. Are the army behind Jammeh, or are they behind the coalition?
I believe that despite the faction and division within the army is behind the people, the Gambian people and the coalition. And I'm also on the belief that the army cannot act. Remember, Jammeh has 60 days. And the army cannot go and say, step down. Because then it's unconstitutional as well. Despite Jammeh breaking the laws, it's unconstitutional. So for me, I would like to see what happens when January 18 or 19, Jammeh said, no, I'm not going to step down, and I want to see the position of the army. Because that's where the army covered. Because historically, again, it's the army that goes and tell you, you have to come down because we are not supporting you, we withdraw our support. And the army can only act that day. They cannot act now. They cannot do that now, but they can act.
Nyimba, do you think the coalition has the support of the army? Do you think the coalition, on the 18th of January, they will back?
I've listened to what you said, but what we need to remember as well is that it took 22 years, Yadebe using the divide and rule mechanism of promoting, hiring and firing officials here and there. He's had the most short-lived cabinet that you can ever imagine. So he's done that on purpose. He's not fired them just because they're inefficient. He's done that because he wants a constant flow of those people coming in, being there, being loyal to him. So the next batch that comes in thinks, oh, I need to be very loyal to him. Otherwise, my position is going to be short-lived as my predecessors. So I think Yadebe has played that game on purpose. Divide and rule. Now, that army, I can't tell you whether they're 100%, 250% behind, as they said, behind Adama Barrow, or whether they're still loyal to Yadebe. I think right now it's very, very, very foolish to really think that they're completely behind us. They might be, but I think we need to still have that sort of a doubt in the back of our minds that they could still be loyal to Yadebe. Why? Because some of these people who have been promoted through the ranks, and I'm just talking on general level now, on general basis, not everyone, but everyone that's been promoted to this level has not necessarily deserved to be where they are. So some of these armies and this general people seem loyal to Yadebe are perhaps sort of being loyal to him because without Yadebe, they probably don't see themselves capable of holding the positions that they did. So again, those people would rather see Yadebe and go down with Yadebe than do the right thing for the country. So for me, I'm stuck on the fence. I'm stuck on the fence on that. Some of them are, yes, but I'm still 50-50 on the fence.
Okay, can we go to Maddie? Maddie, with the same question. Maddie, it's going to be interesting to hear Maddie's view because Maddie, I am sure, Maddie,
Yeah.
Maddie, do you believe that the coalition, under the leadership of President-elect Adama Barrow, has the full support of the army? Do you see, come January the 18th, that the army are going to support the coalition and the Gambian people, or are they going to entrench the dictatorship?
Okay. Number one, one can say that it's not an appropriate question and cannot be answered definitively, because it would be like asking, does the Ministry of Education support Barrow? Does the Gambia Revenue Authority or does Gamtel support, because these are state institutions and they are supposed to abide by the rule of law, and which means, any government that is in power, they are under the control of that government, and they are not supposed to engage in the political activities of the country. So the army has no say legally about what is happening. All they got to do is to, abide by their mandate. So that even the deployment of the military on the streets, for me, legally is illegal, because we are not in a state of emergency. The current president has not declared a state of emergency. We are not under threat from any external force, and we are not under threat from any internal force. So by using the military to deploy them on the ground right now is threatening national security, because there's no justification for it. We have the forces for maintaining internal security, which is the police force. So for me, that they should not allow Yahya to give them orders to shoot, to detain people, to harass people, to torture people. If that order is given to the CDS, he should refuse it, and that would be legal. But at this moment, he should not get involved in the politics. He is a professional manning a state institution that has nothing to do with partisan politics. So that can be clear to the CDS, because he made a statement that for me he needs to be even removed for saying he will be loyal to Yahya because Yahya pays his salary. Yahya does not pay his salary. We pay, the people of the Gambia pay his salary. So he is not loyal to Yahya, he is loyal to Commander-in-Chief. And to the people of the Gambia, not Yahya. So by naming Yahya and avoiding Yahya, he has violated the military act and the constitution by saying that. So we as citizens, we need to understand these issues in this way so that we don't allow the army to get involved in our politics. We expect the army, the police, the Gambian, like for example, the actual Gambian got telephone and information, telephone and internet services on December 1. It's illegal. And the Director General of Gambian should have refused such an order. Because that order is not based on any legality. The denial of power to access GRTS, the Director General of GRTS by our constitution should refuse anyone's order that he should not provide coverage to a particular group of Gambians. So we should know what is the role, the position of state institutions, and what our political dispensation is. So I think the military, it was inappropriate for him to call Barrow. Barrow should not be seeking his support or anything. What the military should know is they have that obligation by law to be answerable to the Commander-in-Chief.
Yeah, but that is by law, Mahdi. That is by law. Come 18th of January, will they support, in your view, the coalition, the Gambian people, or will they entrench Jammeh?
Okay, that question, I'm not in the mind of the soldiers.
But what do you feel? What do you think in your view? Yes.
What I can say is this.
Yes.
On the 18th of January, the CDS body and all members of the armed security services should be answerable to the new Commander-in-Chief.
But will they? But will they?
Yahya is not the Commander-in-Chief. That is clear by law. So whether they will do that or not, whether they will corrupted or co-opted or they misunderstand their role, one may not be able to answer that. They have to speak that for themselves. But by law, what is required of them is that on the 13th of January, they should pay allegiance to the next Commander-in-Chief. And that next Commander-in-Chief is Mr. Alamakon.
Yeah, but do you think they will do that? I just want to know your personal view. What do you feel? What do you feel?
I think they will do it. I think they will do it. I can only think they will do it as Gambians, as servicemen who understand the military and the DNA and the constitution of the Gambia and the political dispensation. So I think they will do it because also as human beings, I think they understand the implications of interfering with our political dispensation and taking actions that damage our peace and security. That they will be answerable for any actions that they do. International law is very clear. Any security service person who carries acts of atrocity, you take personal responsibility and you cannot defend that on the basis that I was given an order. That is clear on international law. Yeah. So I think they will.
That's good.
And I encourage them to do so.
But Mahdi, if come 18th of January and Jammeh does not concede, Jammeh refuses to go off, how politically volatile is the West Africa? How politically volatile does the whole region become? And what are the consequences of this for especially Senegal and the Casamance region?
Yeah, if Jammeh refuses to go on the 18th, he effectively is pushing the country into a civil war, an armed conflict. And that armed conflict, it damages Senegal's territorial integrity because it will spill over into Casamance, it will spill into the rest of northern Senegal. Because if there is a civil war, naturally, the first point of call for Gambians will be Senegal. So Senegal, in their national interest, situation, that is dealing with the Guinea-Bissau situation, that is dealing with the Niger Delta situation, that is also dealing with the Boko Haram situation in northern Nigeria. All right. In addition to a lot of other socio-economic issues that is pressing on ECOWAS. So the leaders of ECOWAS, and I think this is why they made the heaviest representation ever. As they said, they brought the biggest country, the most powerful country. They brought the second biggest, most powerful country, Ghana. They brought Sierra Leone, a country that, by our standards, is on a democratic space. They brought the chairman of ECOWAS. So there is no bigger force, there is no heavyweight more than the representation that they made, which is a clear message that ECOWAS wants to see that this matter is solved peacefully and the other steps down. But if he refuses to go on the 18th, secondly, he threatens, the Gambia security, he threatens the security of Senegal, and he puts a lot of pressure on the rest of West Africa. Bearing in mind that Gambia may be very small, but Gambia is home to hundreds of thousands of non-Gambians, West Africans, Guineans, Malians, Sierra Leoneans, Liberians, and so the effect of the attempted way and causing a civil war will touch the entire West Africa up to Nigeria. It makes of not just Gambia and Senegal, but the whole of West Africa to see that we do not have another civil war in our hands.
Yeah, we saw the UN Security Council, Mahdi, at the request of Senegal, call an emergency meeting and declare that Yahya Jammeh go off. Do you see, in your view, that ECOWAS will send in forces to remove Jammeh come 19th of January if he does not step down?
Yes, I strongly believe ECOWAS would use forces to take care of Yahya Jammeh. I think ECOWAS over the period has learned a lot of lessons. They have made a lot of errors, and they will not see those errors repeated. One last error was in the case of Ivory Coast. They did not do what they should do until the French came, and that is haunting them. And I think that is why we saw them take a stronger position in terms of Burkina Faso. If you remember, Burkina Faso, the presidential guard said they're not going to leave, and ECOWAS did intense diplomacy to make that happen. And so when the Gambia case comes, the minimum they can do is diplomacy, which they have done. But ECOWAS would not allow the smallest country in West Africa, a brutal dictator who is a pariah, completely isolated, even in West Africa, to ridicule West Africa, especially at a time when we are seeing democracy building up in the region. So Nigeria now is at that level. Ghana is at that level. Senegal is at that level. Sierra Leone is at that level. Nigeria. All these countries have time limits. We are seeing change of leadership peacefully in a lot of these countries. So it would be a shame for ECOWAS to sit at the smallest standing country for which one battalion in Nigeria can contain in 1 hour to allow, a buffoon over in Gambia to disrupt the entire region. So I think strongly ECOWAS will send forces in January.
Do you think that ECOWAS will send in forces? Can you see that happening?
Yes, I also agree with Mali that I strongly believe that ECOWAS would send forces if Jammeh refused to go. But I don't know, but I strongly believe Jammeh would go because you see, the forces against Jammeh are more than the forces supporting Jammeh. Like what he said, yes, the army, they have no right to be engaged into the internal political issues. But their duty is to defend the constitution. And the constitution says, come January 18, Jammeh should relinquish power.
Mahdi, are you as optimistic as they that Jammeh will actually step down, that it would not come to the fact that ECOWAS should come in? Because you have strong views that this is a dictator and this is not somebody that will concede, and this is not somebody that people should joke with.
Yeah, I think he will step down. I think he has sent the message, he has seen the outrage, and on all fronts, he is weak.
Yes.
He is completely weak, and I think reason will get to him that this is a matter he cannot do, so that even if he stays, it is at the cost of his life. Mistakes, dictators have made those mistakes. Gaddafi is number one. Samuel Doe is number one. You understand? Nino Vieira, his close friends, mutilated. So, anyone close and the rest of the world. And in fact, I think Gambia now is contemplating of asylum and amnesty. Yes, and I think he is now contemplating of that. Because all fronts have been close to him. So at this stage, much as I don't trust the Kenos anyway, but I suppose to save his life, to save the life of his family, immediate family, he would seek asylum and try to get an amnesty, have an arrangement he can get and get away. So I'm hopeful that before January 18th, we will see a Gambia step down. And they may be very significant in terms of what happens in Abuja. So we may see that Gambia steps down on Monday. I would be surprised.
Madi, a question that I did not ask you while Bonde and Nima has responded to. Are you satisfied with the leadership skills that are coming out of the coalition at the moment? Do you think that there's strong leadership, affirmative leadership? Are you satisfied with the reaction that the coalition has been coming out with regards to this first political crisis that Gambia has been faced with?
Yeah, a lot of people have said, and I have witnessed it so also, that this is a new thing. This is the first time we are doing this. And, so for me on the surface, those things make sense. All right, but strategically, I mean, if I were in Barrow's position, really, if I were to advise him, there are a lot of things that I would have told him that I did not see them do, or did not do early enough. Okay, so, so in that case, I give them the benefit of doubt, and I appreciate the challenges they face and the complexity of the group, like they said, 7 political parties, coming together. All of that is there. But at the same time, I also say there is a lot of room that they could maneuver within. And I think, in my view, they are not utilizing the full potential, the full resources that is available to them. I think you asked them a question, and I had her and Nima talk about they don't have resources. They all say that they have resources because of this condemnation. That is resource. Resource is not just material. And suddenly the coalition doesn't have an army. But the fact that the Christian Council went to meet you, the fact that the Bar Association issued a statement, the fact that the Transport Union, Tango, the Chamber of Commerce, ECOWAS, the United Nations, and all government, that is resource. And that resource, you need to exploit it. You need to exploit it in order to weaken further, to further isolate, to further disempower the dictator. So yes, I understand their limitations. And, by and large, I would say I appreciate the fact that they took their ground. I like the response that they gave when, in response to this December 9th, infamous statement from Gambia. All right, so, but I would want to see really stronger position. I want to see more information coming from the office of the president, because now I don't call Adama Barrow president-elect. For me, he is president. I call him President Adama Barrow. Okay, he should be president right now, as far as I'm concerned. So I want to see more information coming from office of the president Adama Barrow to Gambians, because you see, at this time, visibility matters a lot. Okay, and not all Gambians are watching GRTS or on social media or on the internet. If you go to my village, the folks down there are not watching the internet. Do they hear Adama Barrow? Do they see him? No. You and I do. People in Bangladesh, those with smartphones and stuff like that. So we need to create the visibility so that those all the way in Basel see and hear Adama Barrow. How they are going to do that is for them to sit down and figure that out. Because some people are in doubt. In Brikam, in Basel, is Adama really going to take over? Will there
but all those require resources, Madi. We saw a coalition, we saw that the coalition's election campaign was financed by the diaspora. Does this coalition sit with resources to be able to go to Basay, to go to all these regional areas and interact with the Gambian people?
Yeah, but
they don't have those resources, or do they?
yeah, but how much resources? And suddenly, why can those processes still continue? Because we have not really reached destination yet. We are still, on the road. We have not reached the final point, which is when Barrow is restored as president. So we should not hold back. And they have the resources anyway. We can't sit down and because there are no resources. Some effort has to be made. Some initiative has to be made. You cut resources as much as possible to make sure you get the most of the little that you have. I think that is what's got to be done.
Yeah. Is that what needs to be done?
I agree to some extent with Madi that yes, Adama needs to be out there, but you don't need to be physically in Basay for people to hear you out. You don't need to be physically in Masakonko for people to hear you out. And I clearly agree with Madi, because if I really take what Madi is saying, it's like branding. You want to brand this man out. You want to brand Adama out. You want Adama to be, for every corner, from Banjul to Queen is Adama. Just like Yaya managed to brand himself like that.
Yeah.
You want that thing. But again, you raise another question, resources. Because I'm not even talking about human resources, because the coalition have the human resources. But I'm talking about the financial resources, as you rightly said. This is a coalition that has been funded by the diaspora. They have no financial resources. That is their own. They have the human resources, of course, that can create the financial resources that they could tap on as well. But they could also create videos, small audios that goes into the villages and distributed, because we saw during Aisatu's campaign where videos were distributed all along in the provinces. There's video audios that has been recorded and sent in different languages depending where it is. That can happen. But another challenge I have, when I said I kind of agree with Madi, but on the other side, these people have huge task in their hand, immense task in their hand, dealing with a dictator, no access to even GRTS. I'm tempted to say, why would you allow them to stop you being in GRTS? It's a public institution owned by any Gambian. So they shouldn't even have accepted that they would refuse to air their thing. But then again, we're in a dictatorship. Do we want to go confrontational of using GRTS? Or do we want to just say, like Khalifa, let's wait until January 18. He is the one in government. He is the one in charge. Jammeh is in charge. Jammeh is the president now. We wait until his mandate is over, then we go. This is another issue. So that's why it's a big dilemma. I agree 100% with Madi that the coalition needs to be out there with information, because that is important, because then that clears out the confusion. Because the confusion here is, you are president-elect. Who on earth can deny you access to GRTS? That communication needed to come out.
Not only GRTS, but other radios.
Exactly, other radio stations. But these are things I'm saying that I agree with Madi. Coalition has to come out with information on these things. We need to hear them more out on it, like a daily briefing. They should come out and brief people on a daily basis. If they don't have access to GRTS, we saw ITV doing a wonderful job. There is Mamus here. They can come out and do those briefings there. But my problem is that they have to explain to the Gambian people why it is that GRTS is not allowing Adama to be there. Because the mandate is still there. Jammeh can do whatever he wants, because it's a dictator that has been ruling the Gambia, personalized all the institutions that are supposed to be public. We have a couple of days to go. Do we want to go confrontation on GRTS? No. We want to deal with Jammeh stepping down than dealing with this small institution that they need so much reform. Because the whole country, like Barrow said in his interview, the same video you watched, he said to the journalists, it's a complete overhaul. The country needs a complete overhaul. And honestly, honestly, I don't want to be in their shoes because it's a hell lot of work. It's just like inheriting a bankrupt company that has lost all its customers. It has lost the value of its product.